What's up, guys? You're back with the Suave Podcast. And with today's guest, we have Austin Jochum. Did I say the name right? Austin Jochum?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Perfect, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, super pumped to be here. We had a little discussion about the last name. Everybody gets the last name wrong, but we got it right there, baby.
Don't forget it, guys. Get that name right. You're going to be seeing it all around here soon. I just want to let you know, before this podcast, I got in the spirit a little bit, and I did a little workout last night and this morning, and I was like, we got to get ready for this podcast, coming in right.
It's good. That's how we want to come into this. I just got done with my workout too, so we're rolling.
What kind of workouts do you do now?
Right now I'm just trying to be a better mover. I went through the whole kind of football phase of lifting a bunch of weights and doing that type of thing. Now I'm just trying to learn new skills. Dunking a basketball was a journey I went through, got that done. And then just finished up trying to do a front handspring. And I'm for people out there, I used to be the straight meat stick that could lift a lot of weights, could not move at all. So for me to be able to do a front handspring was the coolest thing in my life. So now we just got to find our next journey and kind of explore what my body can do next.
Oh, dude. Well, I see your stuff, and the movement is so interesting because I see you would apply it to just in your training for when you teach the football guys and anyone just in your program. How does that all start? It's just I don't know if you ever see Conor McGregor, his movements it's super weird with this guy named Ido Patrol. Yeah, Ido Patrol. Oh, maybe I'm saying it wrong, but No, I've watched this stuff, and your stuff is so similar. What made you get into the whole movement aspect?
Yeah, so Ido Patel is one of the main influencers. He's a great movement expert, and just it was kind of a little bit of my own background. Like I mentioned, I was in football, in sports, and my whole life I was told it's more output, more output, more output. And I just my body couldn't move the way I needed to move. I was able to force myself. I had success on the field, and I was able to do the things I needed to do. But there was always people out there that moved better than me, did these things, and they worked less than me. And it was really kind of a struggle in my head. I'm well, why? I squat more than them. Why am I not doing the thing? And in some sense, it should be well, that's obvious. Squatting has nothing to do with it. But when you're in the field of sports performance, you're told your entire college career, you're told your entire athletic career, lift more, do more, you're going to be a better athlete. And that's really not the case. And that kind of sparked the light of what's been the last 3 years of exploration into the movement side of things and trying to get my athletes to be better athletes, actually, not be a better barbell, not be a better power lifter, but be a better athlete.
Yeah. Well, how does your body feel now compared to when you were playing football? Obviously, you're always getting banged up in football. That's just gonna happen. But with now, just focusing more on movement, how does it your everyday of life feel? Just walking around. Is it just more of do you feel more sense of a power or just a better feel? Just confidence wise. How's that all playing together?
Yeah, like you mentioned, a little bit is when you play football, you're gonna be you're gonna have a lot of physical trauma and a lot of things that that the physical practice of football is kind of brutal in itself. So you eliminate that and you just start to feel good. But it's still even though I was probably 6 months after football, I always I had a herniated disc in my back when I was 16, so I could never deadlift or really do anything with my back. It was always stuck, and once a year it would lock up to where I couldn't move, literally couldn't get out of bed. I was 20 years old and couldn't get out of bed. I would have to roll to the ground, crawl my way up, warm up a little bit, and finally be able to put my shoes on at 20 years old. That's where it's you have a whole lifetime to live and you can't move past that point. And just always had low back pain, ankle injuries, hip injuries, messed up my knee a little bit in football, and just all these little things, and doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing all the right things, in quotations, what the experts tell you to do. And I just felt like my body wasn't, I was 20 years old. I'm why can I not do these things? Why do I feel like this? There's no way, if we look, and we'll cover this a little bit later, but there's no way in the evolutionary history of humans, if back in the caveman days, I had to go hunt a tiger, if I felt like this, I would be dead. They would leave me for dead. They wouldn't be able, if one day I woke up and I had a bad back and couldn't move, you're dead. Your family doesn't eat, you don't eat, and the tiger eats you. So that kind of started my approach to changing that, and to where now, I haven't had a back issue in 2 years. And that was after 7 years of every day, I always had something with the back. Knees, ankles, everything feels great right now. And just trying to now increase the athletic performance of what my body can actually be able to do. Because that's one of my things too. I am naturally very unathletic. Can't do a ton. And if I can push my body to a lot of these limits, I just want to show people, like, you naturally can do way more than me. I just want to show you where I can take my body, so hopefully you can stand on the shoulders of that and kind of take it to the next level.
Well, you look great, man, because obviously you've won the MIAC biggest coach of the year. How many times now have you won it? Like 2 or 3 times?
2 years in a row now.
2 years in a row. So obviously you're doing something's right over there. Take some notes, everyone. But so you mentioned a tiger, and like that fascinates me because like I always love watching like the Discovery Channel and just like watching like animals. I think my favorite's like the apes, and I feel like with the whole movement aspect, you like watch animals and just be like, man, just watch the way they move and like kind of like correlate that with the training you do with just like the everyday life, or no?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the biggest, like, even if you don't want to go, so I am big into watching animals, but if you want to drop back even a little bit, go watch kids play. Like, watch kids jump from, like, these, for them, like, it was like triple their height. They would jump off these playground sets, and they would do it 600 times. They would climb on these monkey bars and carry their weight and throw their body. They would throw themselves. My gym's right by a park, and we're able to watch this, like, there's a big sloping hill where kids will just sprint down, basically eat shit, like stumble, fall, completely wipe out, stand back up, run back up the hill, and do it again. And I'm like, we're watching these kids. They're fearless. They are able to do insane things per their body weight. Like that jump, like if that's like jumping 18 feet for me. Like if I'm 6 feet tall, I'm doing the same height, same difference. Like you get to see them do insane things. And then it's pushed into they need to be a specialist. Then it's pushed into they need to be safe. Then it needs to push into they need to be injury free. And then when you get to the point that you're 18 or you're in college or you're in college athletics, you get a bunch of kids that used to be these children that were fearless, were able to do amazing things with their bodies. They're now coming into you. You tell them to do a cartwheel, and they're worried they're going to get hurt doing a cartwheel. And that to me is just the biggest disconnect of what we're looking at. Like, we should all be able to be those playground kids again with our now insane motors in our bodies, with our insane outputs in our bodies. We should be able to be those playground kids. And it's instilled that fear, that doubt, and just the worry of injury is instilled in us. And then we start to really lose the movement and fluidity and courage that our body is built with.
No, yeah, I think that like society kind of like plays a role in that too, just because you're growing up and like so many people are like telling you no, no, and no. Like, oh yeah, you can't do this, or like, like just like they put that in their head, like how you said, you see an 18-foot like cliff and you're just like shaking in your boots, just even thinking about attempting that, because you're just like the mind is just telling you of all the things that could go wrong, but not telling you what could go right. Like I have a 3-year-old son, and literally just every day full of energy, like he kicks my ass like all the time, like I can't keep up with them, and just one day I just like woke up, I'm like had the mindset like I'm a kid today, and I hung in with them, and I'm just like the power of the mind is so different as like we get older, and just how like they just start off and just wide-eyed and just like to grow up to be closed-minded in a way,
Well, yeah, and now that you mentioned, like, you have that kid, you get to see, like, you're going through that process every single day and getting to see that. And that kind of geeks me out. I'm pumped for that because that's sick. I have my little cousin staying here right now, and every day, man, like, she wakes up with the most insane amount of energy, and we're doing things, and we're going, and we're going, and we're going, and we're going, and it's like, it never stops. It's always happening. It's always going. It's like, at what point does that get broken down and going into it, and why? And that's something that I really question is, like, does it have to? And I really don't think it does. Jordan Peterson talks all the time, like the balance between chaos and order, and the process of you need to grow up in a sense to where you get responsibilities and you understand the world. So the child doesn't really understand the world. It has playful energy, but it doesn't really understand the world. And once you become the adults, you need to be able to get those adult thought processes and actions and understandings to get responsibilities and help people. And then you need to revert back to your childhood days and your childhood energy to be able to have that thought process again of what the world is like and the creative energy that a child has.
No, yeah. And that's super awesome. You said you have your cousin living with you right now?
Yeah, or not. I'm back home for the holidays, so
no,
we're
yeah.
all kind of in the same house, yeah.
No, yeah, and like it's so weird though too, because they're so little, and like, what are you supposed to say? Oh, like, oh yeah, I can't play right now. I'm tired. Like, you would never do that to a kid, because they're just like, they look up to you, they see the world in you, and you're just like, no, they're like, yeah, we're gonna keep playing, we're gonna keep doing this. Like, no matter how tired you are, like, you just keep going, because like they're having the time of their lives. You can give them like a cardboard box, and they're gonna just like use their imagination and just like create their own thoughts and like creations in their own mind, and it's truly pretty awesome to watch that and just like see the enjoyment of life. Like I feel like as we get older, like that enjoyment just becomes like a 9 to 5 every day, and we're just waiting for the weekend. But for them, it's just like every second of every day is a gift and a joy.
Yeah, well, I just finished up a book, Awareness by Anthony DeMello, and I actually bought like 6 copies, and I sent it out to basically everybody on my Christmas list. Like that was everybody's Christmas present this year, this book. And its whole point is, once you grow up, you start to look, like you said, you're looking for happiness, you're waiting for happiness, you're looking for the moment, you're waiting for the moment, you're trying to create it. And his whole point is like, it's already there, like it's already within you. It's like, watch a kid again, like every second of every day, like it's there. They are in the moment and they're present and they are awake. And that's one of the biggest things is like they are awake to the moment. And they look at everything with wonder. They look at everything like it's new. It's not a set box of something. And as we start to try to create these moments and try to come up with these moments, or we wait for these moments, we're kind of just sleeping through every single second of every day, and we miss the amazing things. Like one of the things that I've been doing is like, and he mentions it in his book, but like when you listen to a song, like try to just be completely immersed in the song, try to be completely immersed in the moment, and each second trying to be more awake, more like that kid that is in the moment. And once you really reach that state, you understand that it's not an event. It's not something that you create. It's not like, it's every single moment. And that really accelerates your life and the happiness in it.
Well, I can just hear it in your voice just about like you really mean what you say, and like that's like inspiring back to me, just like hear that, and like your perspective of life is just like, I can just tell like you're growing into that, like you're just like trying to find to be present in the moment, because I feel like it's so easy to like have your mind wander in like a special moment and like not take it in and just like keep thinking about like what happened yesterday, or like, oh man, what do I gotta do tomorrow, not be present there. And like that's something I have worked on too. So it has like the movement kind of like, because I see you roll around with the kids and stuff on Instagram. Has that given you like a new sense of joy almost, like kind of like you're a young guy already, but do you even feel younger and like the best shape of your life now just because of like the whole movement like aspect of it?
Oh, 100%. That's something that I wrote an article for Just Fly talking about the zombie apocalypse. And this is, again, a little bit about like the sleeping person or the sleeping athlete that comes into you. Their day is basically like ran, like from when they wake up, even as a track athlete or a football athlete, like you understand, like you go to your lifting sessions in the morning, a coach tells you what to do, why to do it, how to do it. Then when you're done with that, you go and eat, and then you go to class. A teacher tells you what to do, why to think, what to do in this class. Then you go to football practice or track practice after that. You're told what to do, why to think, why to do that. And then we wonder why athletes and kids are so obsessed with their phone or so obsessed with social media. And it's like, well, no shit. Like it's the one time in their day where they're allowed control over their life. It's the one time where they're allowed to express themselves and not told what to do. And that's where this movement comes into play of trying to break that zombie apocalypse. Once you start to flow and get into some of the games that we play, and it's totally creative and it's totally in the moment, you gain control and you just enter. Like when you're doing it, like you'll see like guys maybe talking shit to each other, maybe they're laughing super hard, but there's so many things going on that it's not anybody telling you what to do. And once you get it, it's tough to explain, but it's just that flow state that you feel that I'm sure everybody has felt one time in their life. And now every day we get to experience a little bit of that flow state, a little bit of, wow, that time just flew. Wow, that like just felt amazing. You felt like a kid again, and it just kind of happened rather than being forced.
No, yeah, and for me though too, I can't say I have, like I'm a big boxing and UFC fan, so I'm like in love with the sport. And me personally, I haven't tried the whole movement thing. Like I know when I do yoga, I just feel like so relaxed, and like even just like watching your videos, like it's just like something just like it just looks and feels different, like where you're a kid again, and you just like see the world from that aspect, like pure joy, like we talked about. And but it's so unique because you set goals for yourself, and like they're not easy things, like dunking a basketball. Like I know Jake Kelly, I know you guys did that whole task together, and I played basketball with him. I'm sorry, Jake, but he was struggling before, and to see him accomplish that with you, like do you like just like say like, oh, just like every day, like I just feel like you're a guy that just searches for like the next thing. Like, oh yeah, I did this. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it moving. Like, what's next? And like, kind of like keep moving forward. Like, how does that work out? Like, just like setting goals and then accomplishing them.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of how it goes. I've set a goal, and I've always been a goal-oriented person. And this is something that you mentioned earlier. You're like, well, you can tell in your voice like you're in the moment, you're doing that, and that's where it's. I've always struggled a little bit with setting that goal and not being happy until reaching that goal. And now I've been trying to work my brain and the way I process things a little bit differently to be happy in the moment while striving for a goal. But goal-wise, man, every single thing that I have a goal I'm reaching for. Trying to like, not saying you're going to hit it, but at least if you aim high, you're going to go high. Not saying you're going to hit that absolute height that you aim for, but man, if you're not aiming high, if you're not aiming for something at least, like you're just going to go all over the place. So aim for something super, super high. If you reach it, you reach it. If you don't, you still went a little bit higher than you were before. And that's physically, like, it's just something new, something that I think is going to be challenged, something that's going to get me into a flow state. Like, I'm not sure I'm thinking, like, so you'll be the first one to know, but maybe it's doing the splits. Like that's one that I have right now. That's a little journey, but still working on that next little goal. But yeah, man, that's pretty much how it's always been, is accomplish the goal, set a new goal, and then really break down the process of how to get to that next goal.
The split sounds so painful. I can already feel my insides just like breaking right there as you said that. But just so like with even the whole dunk thing, is it just like one day you just saw a hoop and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna dunk a basketball, or I'm gonna set up goals and like train to get me to that point? Is that just like what just happens? Like you just see something, you're like, I'm gonna do that. Like you can't tell me no.
Pretty much. I mean, well, and the basketball one was a little bit of one day I walked into the gym and I jumped. I was doing a bunch of lifting. I like squatted like 500 pounds that day. Got done with an awesome lift and went to the gym. Tried to jump up. I think I was with a couple football guys too. Tried to jump up and barely like touched the net. And I was like, oh man, like that is not good. And my entire life I've played sports that like keep me on the ground, played sports that are like, if you left the ground in football, like you're going to get pancaked, you're going to get dead. So it's like the exact opposite approach. I have like T-Rex arms and I'm not very tall, and I've been told that like my entire life. So it's just like I've always navigated away from the challenges to get vertical. And when I jumped up.
How tall are you?
6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I was just like, did that, I was like, well, damn, like now I got to do this. And just kind of set the journey. And again, one of the things too, and I mentioned this to a lot of people, is like one of my main goals with that journey specifically was like, if I can dunk, literally anybody in the world, I believe, can dunk. Like if my body and the way I am wired can dunk and get a basketball into that rim, anybody can do it. And I think 90% of people out there can do it way easier. So that was kind of one of my goals too, is like try to eliminate excuses in people's brains and be a little bit of an inspiration in people's brains with some of the stuff that I do fitness-wise. Because if my body can do it, like yours can, I promise you yours can. It's just a little bit of belief.
No, well, I mean, you're giving me a 5'9" guy hope that I can even get even to the rim. So I think I might have to sign up for this training right after this episode. But just so, like you were just saying before, like, you know, your brain, you try to wire your brain a certain way. Has COVID, like, affected, like, your, like, you know, the whole thought process of working out? Because, like, I feel like it's so simple just to say, you know, I'm not getting up today. I'm just going to lay in my bed. Like, I feel like it's so easy just to, like, lay in the bed. Has there been like kind of a struggle to like get up and get that motivation?
COVID has been the best thing in the world for me.
Really? Glad to hear that.
Number one thing in the world. So I was in a state of very much like burning out both ends, doing the gym that I was working with, doing our online business, and then working at St. Thomas, working like 4 hours or getting like 4 hours of sleep a night, doing like everything. And man, like I hated lifting. I hated doing like a lot of the stuff that I was doing, and I was just like not having any of it. Didn't set my day up. I didn't schedule my day in a good enough time to be able to have enough free time, have enough thinking time, be able to really explore some of the things that I wanted to explore. And I was valuing things that I didn't really need to value. And then COVID hit and wiped it all out. And for me, it was a big wake-up call. It's like, all right, when this happens in the future, if this were to happen, if there's another thing that happens, like what really matters? You know, like, is it this stuff that you're reaching for, or is it like how you actually feel. And are you actually helping people if you're sleeping 4 hours a day and you're pretty worthless at basically everything that you're trying to do? So COVID was like, and I'm a very much like, I come from a family of construction workers and like go, 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 like a mule mentality. So COVID was the first time in my life where it like forced you to like, you're not doing anything. Like you can't, your gym is physically closed. People can't work out right now. Like this is your time to reset. And that was a big moment of, all right, now what are you going to do? Like what matters? And that refocusing really allowed me to spend a lot of time meditating, spend a lot of time like catching up on sleep and physically getting my body right. And it really kind of changed my business, changed my approach to training, changed my own physical approach. And now we're in a much, much better state and much better balance of life. So like I understand COVID is like, there's a lot of really bad things. It's wiping out a lot of businesses and it's doing a lot of bad things in the world. But for me personally, it was a really good thing to make myself reset in life.
No, well, I'm glad to hear that. At least for me, like when COVID first hit, it was a struggle to, like, I like to think I'm probably not a gym rat to your extent, but for me, I try to get in the gym at least like 4 times a week. And there was just a point where I was just like in bed. Like there was 2 days in a row where I was just in bed. I'm like, I'm just not getting up today. And to find that motivation was super hard. And I think for me, what helped the most was meditation, but then also like writing stuff down. Like, what do I want to accomplish today? Like, what is my goal? Like, how can I impact the world today? The moment I get up, because like we never know when it's gonna be our last. 2020 has shown us so many times like you can't take life for granted. So for me, I guess I was starting to write stuff down, like little basic stuff too. Like I'd be like, go to the bathroom or take a shower, brush my teeth, just so I can just like cross some things off and like kind of get that motivation to be like, oh yeah, like I did some stuff today, so now I can go and tackle the hard stuff. So that's just kind of how, I guess for me at least, that's how I did. I'm not sure if you had anything similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, again, my biggest thing was the break of like forcing my like meathead mentality brain to take a little bit of a break and take a step back to reset. And this is where I think a lot of people really get stuck, is in that day to day, in that like they're in the forest itself, and they're missing a lot of things in life. They're missing a lot of the bigger picture things, a lot of the like massive things that they could be doing, where their brain could be exploring. And they're kind of sitting at this. I talk a lot about this. Like they sit at that 7 all day. So a scale of 0 to 10, they sit at the 6 to 7 all day, every day. And it's like they're buzzing, and they never allow themselves to go down. Because like in our society, you are chastised if you go down, if you rest, if you don't break. Like it's all go, 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 no breaks, grind. Like, yeah, all right, dude. Like you're going to stay at that 7 all day and be average. And if you want to be average, great. Like that 7 is really good. If you want to be exceptional, if you want to do something really next level, you got to allow yourself to go down to the zeros, go down to the ones, allow yourself to empty your brain. And that's something that most people do not do at all. And I did not do it at all for the longest time. Empty your brain of everything, eliminate the noise, create some space in your brain. So it's not other people's ideas, it's not other people's noise in your brain. You're at that 0. And once you hit that 0 and you really are just open, that's where you shoot up to a 10. And that's where the idea that can really change your life, change your business, and change everything that you want to do come from. But you never reach that, you never do that if you sit there in that grind mentality, that work harder mentality at that 6 and 7, and just kind of like be that worker bee. Like my goal is not to be the worker bee anymore. I've done that in my life. Understand where it takes me. It takes you so far, but my goal is to go way higher than that.
Where's your goal at?
My ultimate goal?
Yeah.
Impact as many people as possible with Jochum Strength and the brand that it's building. My goal with kind of Jochum Strength is to take it to a level to build a business, build a little bit of a dynasty, an empire, and then help other people do the same thing. Like that's my ultimate long-term goal, is to become really good at creating a business and an empire with that, and then take a step back out again and relook and help other people do it. I think people don't understand the power of brands, don't understand the power of who they are individually and their idea. I hear so many people with great ideas and great things and motivation, and they never do it. Like they never actually do it. And it's just because it's not preached and it's not understood, like to be an outside thinker, to be a doer. And that's kind of one of my main goals, is really inspire people, whether it's business wise or not. inspire people to take an outside look at things, like step outside, take an outside look and understand what you could do, understand why. And I feel like a lot of times the same facts, the same things are beat into everybody's head, and then everybody's the same person. And my goal is not to be the same person. My goal is to be myself, completely individualized.
Well, I think your big picture is like super inspiring just because I like how you said like people, they talk all these big dreams, but they never really do anything about it. I think our generation has become like this whole like big picture and like, all these like big tasks they want to accomplish, but we're afraid to fail at the end of the day. And like they're just afraid to even start because they just think about, oh, like what could go wrong down the line. It's just like I feel like our generation has come to a point where we're not taking those big risks anymore. Like everyone just wants to play it safe and like keeps themselves and not like kind of like seen as like an outsider to society almost, And like I just think that's just like what you're doing is like something that's just I'm going for it, and which is what I noticed right away, which is why I wanted you on the show. I was just like, this guy's reaching for the stars here, and like I can just see like with your brand, like how did that whole start? Like I know you were a great football player, so you go from football and like what makes you say, I'm gonna start my own business and like go into this training world?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of twofold. It was understanding if you want to go straight business wise and you want to go economics, understanding that if I wanted to be a sports performance coach, the college world doesn't pay you your value. And that's not just the college world, that's working for anybody. If you work for somebody, you are paid less than your value. It's how it has to work because they are getting paid a certain amount of money for what you're doing, and they have to give you a stipend of that, a piece of that. So that was one thing I understood early, that if I wanted to have the freedom that I wanted to have and I wanted to reach the things that I wanted to do, I needed to have my own revenue source. I needed to have something that is uncappable. Like Jochum strength is uncappable. Not very many people can say that about their jobs. It starts at a way lower point than most people, but it's uncappable. Like the potential of it can continue to rise until I don't want it to rise anymore, until I can't figure it out anymore. So that was one process of it. And then two is I was thinking like, how can we implement all these ideas and really reach for the stars with people? And I reached out to a couple trainees, a couple football guys that I played with, and I'm like, hey man, like I'll train you guys for free. Like I just want to see if like this is what I want to do. And I texted like probably 10 people. 3 people showed up. I trained them all summer for free. The first summer at Jochum Strength, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Fell in love with the relationships building, fell in love with the coaching side of it. Some of our training methods then, like I would look back on now, even 3 years later, and laugh at, like that was so stupid, like what we're doing. But just the buy-in that we got with those guys, and the focus and the attention, like I fell in love with it. It was an addiction, and now it's like, how can we take that even more? How can we take that next step? And now it's just that's been the whole journey: is next step, next step, next step. How do we keep this momentum rolling?
Well, that's awesome. Like that's fucking amazing to hear that. Like it's just like truly inspiring. Just go for it. Like that's like the main thing about it. Like you just went for it. And I think like even like with your whole business, like you were doing so many great marketing campaigns. I feel like just like Anatomy Tuesday or Technique Tuesday, just to, like really get people involved. Like how is like your business like growing? 'Cause, like it started off like I feel like just more of like football based, but like now we're kind of like seeing it more of like a challenge now. Like you're doing a 12-week challenge right now, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah, so like I feel like it's just like not just for athletes, but it's just like for anyone that like loves fitness, and like you're just taking the, like that next step for the brand. Like you want to go more in depth about that?
Yeah, and this is where like people are like, how do you do? And there's so many times I get the question like, how do you do that? How do you create that exercise? How do you create that training environment? How do you create that business? How do you create that idea? It's like you just do it, man. Like there's so many, like all you're seeing right now are the ideas that stuck. There's so many ideas that sucked so bad and failed so hardcore and looked so stupid the first time I put it out that like we canceled those. But it's just one, allowing yourself to go into a state, again, emptying your brain completely. I call them spirit walks, going on a walk, emptying everything, getting to a state where now everything that comes into your head is your idea. It's your idea. It's an idea. It's like, holy shit, that's cool. It'll start to pop up. I just walk around, think of an idea, write it down real quick, continue walking. Idea, write it down real quick, continue walking. Get done with that spirit walk. I go get back into a little bit of a normal state, enter my state. I look at these ideas, and then right away I can cross off some of them. I was like, that idea sucks already. That one. And now I'm stuck with another list of 5 ideas. That list of 5 ideas, I test with the market. I test with the people that are part of the brand. Some of them work really good. The online training business started because I was like, I got a text from a former athlete that I worked with. He was actually one of the 3 football guys that I trained for free. He just graduated. He wanted to continue training. I went on one of these walks, got the idea. I'm like, online training. Why do I not allow take our elite level athlete training and put it online and allow us to affect more people? And that completely snowballed. But again, for that one idea that worked and is now a major part of our business, there was 17 that were terrible, and I look back on and laugh, but that's how you have to do it to continue the snowball, to continue to take the steps forward and understand what actually works. You have to try it.
No, and I've seen your stuff on the field, so obviously I'm in track, so I'm always in the weight, I'm in the weight room, and I'm always passing the field, and you guys are sometimes upstairs in the field house. And I remember I was walking to class one day, and you had the guys wrestling against each other. I think it was wrestling. I could be wrong. And then I kind of and I know some of the football guys, mainly just the quarterbacks, and I was looked at them kind of want to go down there and give this a whirl, because I see your stuff, and you're kind of the Mr. Miyagi of the fitness life right now. You got the whole wax on, painting the fence. You're doing all these different outside the box things. How is that how does that feel just to be so different from any other fitness brand right now? I feel people know you just because of you're just thinking outside the box.
Yeah, and I don't think, and I heard this the other day, it's not the goal. The goal is to not be different than other people. The goal is to accomplish the goal by being myself and do what I believe in. And what I feel most people get stuck in the journey of is forcing themselves to be different than other people. They try to force, and again, that's just forcing yourself to be something else again.
So this is just you. This is just you being yourself. You're just I have a passion for this.
Exactly. And the 2 kind of routes most people take are, they have something beat into their head either through school, college, or their parents, and then they're beat into that mold, or they try to force themselves into a different mold. And you look at that, and both people are on the complete opposite side of things, and they're both wrong. They're both not who they are supposed to be. And again, that's the biggest thing is I'm not trying to be different. I'm trying to be myself and accomplish the goal in the best way that I see fit. And that allows me to do it in a different way. It allows me to do in the best way that I see fit, rather than, oh, my college professor told me this. Oh, my parent told me this. Oh, somebody told, drop those emotions, drop those attachments, and all right, the offensive linemen need to fight another human during their game. They need to be able to brace. They need to be able to absorb these things. Quarterbacks need to be able to get hit and absorb. How is a barbell going to accomplish that? How is a barbell squat going to do that? How is a deadlift going to do that? Wow, well, shit, it won't. Even though the book told me it would, it's not going to. That doesn't make any sense. So why don't we have them? We have 120 football guys. Why don't we have them do some wrestling? Why don't we have them do this stuff? And if you look at it again, you talked a little bit about the animal, watching animals. Watch the sport. You watch what's actually happening. Watch wrestling and see how similar those things are. Watch, and then put a barbell squat next to it and see how different that is. Not that the barbell squat's the devil, it's how we use it. It's how we use these tools in our life. And it's just a lot of times we don't think about that. We don't actually think about that. We just do it because we've been told it.
No, right. And I think that's super awesome. You're I like how you just said this is just me, and I'm just gonna think out of it. Just you're coming at it with a realistic approach. You're just how are we gonna accomplish this by just lifting weights, getting big, you want to be I feel durability is the most important thing in football too. You want to be available as much as you can. So just train the guys to be there and ready at any point is pretty fucking awesome. So how many people are hitting you up now? Because you started this program, you weren't with St. Thomas right away though, were you or no?
First 6 months, the first semester after I graduated, I was a strength conditioning coach and defensive line coach at St. Olaf.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So what made that whole transition? You go to St. Olaf, a rival of the Tommies, and then they bring you back. How did that all happen? Were you just was there serious progress? Were they seeing your work? Were they just fell in love with it, or did you go to them and kind of give them an idea of what you wanted to accomplish with the program?
Yeah, I think a combination of both. Like being the St. Thomas strength coach, I wrote down as soon as I started, and this is like going back to the goals. When I was a fresh or senior in high school, going to St. Thomas, I had just committed. I wrote down 5 college athletic goals that I wanted to do. Like as a senior in high school, I didn't accomplish a single one of those goals until I was a senior in college, which I accomplished every one but one, which was win the national championship. So that's where it kind of stood in my head of understanding the time it's going to take and then understanding the manifestation that it has to have. I looked at the same sheet of paper, woke up next to it for 4 years straight without being able to cross anything off, without being able to like put my thing next to it and check it off for 4 years straight. And then I was able to check them all off. As soon as I graduated college, I wrote down, become the St. Thomas strength conditioning coach. Like that was my goal. Talk about manifestation. I'm a major believer in if you really set your goal for that, like you're going to be able to accomplish that. Went to Olaf because after I graduated, like there wasn't a St. Thomas job available. There was a St. Thomas strength coach there already. Went to Olaf, was able to learn a ton, was able to take a step back and look at St. Thomas and be able to disconnect, again, some of the emotions that I needed to disconnect. And as soon as that season was over, St. Thomas, his strength coach, took a different job. Like you talk about how the universe works and you want to get woo-woo-y with that. Like tell me that's not meant to be. Like tell me that some of the connections and things that are happening aren't meant to be. This guy's a young strength coach and just leaves and randomly takes a different job. And now it's wide open. And as a 21, 22 at the time now, I have the option to take over one of the best Division III football teams in the country and a team that I believe in every single thing that they're doing and has completely changed my life. And now I have the opportunity to do that. And that when I got the opportunity to interview for that job, that's what I laid out. It's what I told them. It's what I told them I believed in. And it's something that I always wanted to do. And that's kind of how it manifested itself.
And just the whole manifestation thing about it is so true and powerful. Like we all are creators of our own universe. Like what we want to achieve, like if we speak it to the world, the universe will give it to us, but you also have to like put the work in, obviously. But clearly you did that. And so now that those dreams are now like accomplished, like do you still like do that? I feel like that's almost like a dream board almost. Have you ever heard of those? Like you put like things up and images of what you want to accomplish in your life. Do you have one of those, or like is there something else like you have big in mind for like I don't know if you have a piece of paper next to your bed anymore, but just like is there anything that you want to manifest now, or like just coming into 2021?
Our biggest thing that it's less, so now we have the businesses created. Now it's more goals with the business and things that we want to manifest in that way. So it's a little less grabby right now because it's not get the job now. It's do an amazing job at the job, like win a national championship with this job. With the business, like really take that to the next level and do a lot of those things. So we have a goal. I have a goal sheet that I wake up next to every single morning. It's not as cool as like get the St. Thomas job and then do it. It's like win a national championship now. Like that's our goal. I want to touch on a little bit. You talked about how the universe is gonna give you something that you're kind of manifesting, and you still have to put in the work, like you mentioned. But if you look at a lot of like the psychological studies behind this too, for the people that don't want to get as woo-woo-y as I get, the people that set that goal and reach for something, they literally see things differently. They see their life in a different way. So if you don't want to go into the woo-woo-y world of understanding that the universe will give you what it asks for if you put the effort in and give the universe what it needs, you can start to understand how that can completely differentiate two people with the same exact skill set. One person sets a goal, one person puts something that they're reaching for, and now they're seeing things as a manifestation. The same person, same events happen to somebody. Some person isn't looking for it. Some person isn't aware, and they don't have their eyes open. Doesn't do anything. Another person sees that small thing, their eyes are open, and now they start to go this way. And then that event happens again, and they start to go this way. And that's where you see two people that have the same exact things go completely different directions, because one person's just looking for these events. They're just understanding what is happening, and it builds their confidence, it builds their success, it builds their momentum. And all they had to do is open up their eyes. Like that's all you have to do is just start to look at your surroundings, start to look at your blessings, start to look at the things that are happening in your life, and then see them and understand them and like appreciate them, rather than be like, oh, I just going to 9 to 5, whatever. Like that's like that you're never going to get anywhere doing that.
No, yeah, and just like going back to like, so I watched you on the Back Pocket podcast. I guess we're plugging them too. Shout out to the Back Pocket podcast. And I've never met them, but I've DM'd them. But anyways, just about that, I watched that episode, and you beat me to it. The whole spiritual walk, like it clicked to me. Like I like fully understood what you were saying. Like and that's like in the moment I knew like, okay, this is just a unique personality. This isn't a guy that's just, you know, a meathead that's just like starting his own business and like, you know, the whole fitness where like your just like approach is just so unique and inspiring because like I feel like I don't know if you are trying to be present in the moment, but I feel like that it's almost like what you are doing. Like you're just like emptying your mind and thoughts and just like you're there. You're just present. You're just like looking at your surroundings. Like for me, like I'll drive sometimes and I'm just like I'll turn the radio off and it's like complete silence in my car and I'll drive like 10 minutes and I'm just like looking around. I'm like just like in a maze of the world we have around us, like how beautiful like nature is and like how we can sometimes take that for granted and like be at the center of like my own universe. And then I feel like that's like when the best thoughts and like creations happen and you're just like, oh, like if I was like stressing about something, like at least for me, and this is something I want to ask you about too, just because I feel like for people to like get into the whole fitness, you know, just to get to the gym and they want to transform their bodies, it is hard to like stay with it because I feel like people like they want to see the results right away, but they don't see them, and that's like when people like die out and diminish. And so I just because of for that, like do you like tell your clients right away like, hey, this is something that's gonna take progress, and if you stick with it, I'm gonna get you there.
Yeah, my goal with the fitness realm and working with my clients is to provide them with two things. Something they can implement and do within their life within the next 10 minutes. Next 10 minutes, quick hit, like TikTok information, TikTok exercises, TikTok things that they can be like, grab right away and feel great. The dopamine rises, they feel amazing. And also work on the next 10 years side of things. So now that's a little bit of that balance. It's the balance of we give them some instant results. We give them some things that they can feel good about. They can go to the gym, get done with the first workout and notice something. They're like, holy shit, I've never felt that before. Holy shit, like this is amazing. Holy, he wasn't lying about that. And now our body has not transformed. It usually takes like minimum of like 12 weeks to like see that big transformation. Like the eye opener, the Instagram post that you want to see is like a 12-week minimum. And like you said, like a lot of people die out if you don't give them something to continue to reach for every single time. So like the challenge is a different thing to reach for and PR with. And then we work on the other end of things while we're giving them that 10-minute dose of motivation, is that 10-year dose of motivation. Hey man, this is what we can do for the rest of our life with our diet. These are our diet principles that we can do for the rest of our life. You are not going to notice the difference right away. But man, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it's going to completely change your fitness levels, your health levels. Your education piece, and this is something that I geek out about too, is my clients should be able to educate everybody around them. Like they should be able to give this information. They shouldn't have to listen to some person tell them about toning and like fruit snack shakes, like whatever the thing going around on Instagram. My clients should have these principles set in their head in education, that 10-year piece, and be able to help the community. And that's kind of like our approach. Like 10 minutes, we're going to help them. We're going to motivate them for the little bit so they continue to stay motivated in the moment, as well as a 10-year where we're reaching for that bigger goal. We're educating them and we're helping them long term.
No, yeah. And another thing I want to touch about too. So like sticking with the topic, you know, you get new clients, they're sticking with it. And then, like you said, it takes 12 months to see that true progress. But I feel like even with, hang on one second. Mayday. But anyways, no, just like sticking with that topic, you know, you have these clients. And so like with that, you know, I feel like our society is become like this Instagram world where you are seeing all of these like beautiful people with beautiful bodies. And, you know, that's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's like body shaming, but just like they have these insecurities, like they have these demons. And like that's something you touched about too in that episode I watched. And so like for you, did you have that like when you first started entering into the like, you know, the gym and like just like relating to those clients when you first like receive them, or no?
Well, so in the sense of first entering into the gym and first entering into sports, like that was the only reason I entered into sports. That was the only reason I entered into the gym and became the meathead, is because it built up a shield from the demons. It built up an outlet for the demons. It built up an outlet for the anger that I had built up, and kind of built up a little fake security. All right, you're successful on the football field. All right, you're really really good at this. All right, you're super successful. Like, you must have it all figured out. And that's what it was. Like that was my outlet for all of it. That was my direction for all of it. So we talk about demons, like that was sport for me. And that was something that I had to completely reshape in my head. Like, it should be a trampoline. It should be something that helps me. It should not be something to hide like what I want to do. It should not be like an outlet. And I shouldn't say it shouldn't be an outlet, because I still believe like for a lot of people it's a good source of an outlet in some sense, but you have to understand that. Like for me, it wasn't an understanding of that. It's just what it was. It's what kept everything at bay. Now I understand why I work out. I understand why I meditate. I understand these things, and I look at it differently rather than just allowing and trying to hide from all of it.
No, yeah. And I think too, for me, I'm a person that struggles with anxiety and depression, and I have noticed too, like, it's so easy, like I've said before, just to lay in that bed and say, I'm not going to do anything today. And those days, like, pile on and pile on. And for me, I do, like, I do love the gym, and I love going to the gym. And I feel like when you are working out, I feel like that helps you so mentally. And have you, like, noticed that, like, with your clients at all? Like, just not even the body, but just, like, the mentality of their, like, of them, like, starting to get confidence and, like, facing their own demons, insecurities, and like it with you as well too.
Oh yeah, I mean, so I have a really cool example of an athlete that I worked with in person. He has a little neuromuscular twitch, and I call it neuromuscular because it happens anytime he's nervous, anytime he's uncomfortable. He has a left, or I guess right eye, right shoulder twitch, to where anytime, like the first time I met him,
oh, wow.
It was all this multiple times. A minute, like all the time. And it was just a twitch that he has when he gets nervous. And working with him, we worked with him for 4 months without ever mentioning the twitch, without ever mentioning any of it. We built up his confidence. He talked about how much better mentally he was. He talked about like how much stronger he felt, like he could walk around the rest of his day and just feel amazing. And we have never seen the twitch again, never once. So you talk about how the mind can actually completely change everything in your life. Like that's something that like, it was legit, and he mentioned it, like he legit like got rid of a twitch because he just mentally and physically was in a better state. Like that is the power of what we're trying to do. And just think about what your twitches are in life. Maybe your twitch is an anger, maybe your twitch is that anxiety or depression. Like being able to put yourself and build your foundation to where that twitch isn't there anymore, because your foundation is so sturdy and you don't have to stand on that stable rock. And that's what I view that twitch as. That's what I view that depression as, that anxiety as a little bit, is like you don't feel sturdy on your own foundation. So you have an outlet. You have that anxiety. You have that depression. You have that anger. You have a physical twitch. And how can we build your foundation? Physical is just one part of it. Like that is just such a, it's a part of what we're trying to do. We work on meditation. We work on some of our diet stuff. We work on lifelong goals to continue to build that foundation, because people listening will be like, yeah, like, I know a lot of, and that's the same here, like I know a lot of jacked people, physically fit people that, like, if you're going to talk about twitches, going to talk about anxiety, depression, insecurities, like those are a lot of times the most insecure people. And that's true because they don't focus on the other aspects. So it's not like fitness is going to change everything. It's the holistic approach to the human, the holistic approach to the athlete that will change everything.
No, yeah. And I totally agree though too. And like that's like something that also like really like caught my eye when I watched like you talk about like your demons and insecurities, and like you're like just even said like I like the word demons because like I forget how you explained it. You were just saying like how like it's more of like just like a realistic like approach, like these are things like that dread us almost. I'm not sure if I'm getting that right or not, but like to hear like you, like you're a very fit guy, a very big guy, killing it on Instagram, killing it on the podcast, and like your whole business to like, and I feel like I could relate to you, and I feel like that's like something though too, like I kind of like saw like, you know, kind of more like I feel like, you know, when people see you, like I've seen you in the gym a couple times and kind of seem like, I wouldn't say you're not approachable, but like kind of like a more of like I'm a little timid to like, you know, say, hey, how's it going, you know, like, you know, like, but like when I saw that, it was more of like I saw like kind of more of a human side to like the character of yourself? I don't know if you want to like go into depth about that, just about your own personal experiences.
No, and that's something like you talk about in the gym. I mean, that's something that I use the gym a little bit as my own meditation. In a sense, I do a lot of meditation on the side, but I talk about gym like as an outlet, a motivation, like a way to get into the flow zone. Because I hear that all the time. It's like you look scary in the gym, like you're gonna kill me. It's every single time I hear it. It's like
you got that game face on in the gym.
Yeah, it's just kind of like entering into that zone. That's something that I feel like a lot of people's like they never enter into the zone, and that's something like one of the main reasons I go to the gym and do these activities so I can feel that zone again, like grab life by the balls and feel it, like feel it in that zone, and that's where it's trying not to distract myself, trying to stay in that zone and create that. But it's like I've heard that comment so many times. Like people are like, "Oh, you look like you're gonna kill me," and like, yeah, I would never talk to you in the gym until I got to know you. And it's like, yeah, like I don't hate anybody in the gym. I don't hate anybody in life. Like that's not my emotion in the gym. It's just the face that I want to stay in that zone.
Well, I've seen you run on the football field, man. Because like I've noticed you and some other guy just race each other just onto the sideline, and you can just see the intenseness and like. Yeah, and you know how in Madden, like back in the day, they would have the dun 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 and I feel like that's like just like your theme, like you're just bolted on and like you set a tone for the whole team. Like, yeah, we're coming out here today.
So the other guy that sprints on the field with me, that was Mark Dowdle, the other guy in our podcast that you.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't even know that. Super cool.
Yeah, that's our connection. So when you see you hear us talk and then you see us run on the same field, like we are linked up mentally.
Do you usually win those races or what? Are you a quick guy?
Yeah, just so Dowdle's listening, I think I only lost one to him. I'm not going to argue with him, but yeah, I smoked him.
Well, I mean, I know you were in track, but you were a thrower, right?
I was a thrower, yep. Didn't do a lot of sprinting.
Well, I mean, so how did, do you, also work with, track athletes as well, with your program, too? Like, is it just more, you work on speed as well?
Yeah. At Jochum Strength, we work on a lot. We work with, I would say, our second biggest clientele is track athletes.
Oh, really? Wow.
Kind of a different approach. It's just because it's very output based. But yeah, we work with speed based. I mean, we have to work with speed based with our football guys all the time too, just because that's a main component that they're missing. Again, they're told all their lives that they have to be big, strong, and beefy, and then they never sprint and they have no idea how to sprint. And we're missing it. Like watch Tyreek Hill run. You would look at that man outside of the football field and you'd be like, "There's no way this guy plays football." And then he's the best wide receiver in the league. Like speed, agility, perception, reaction, those are the things that matter. Movement is what matters.
No, movement is so key. I remember I'm watching this documentary on apes, and it's on Disney Plus too. If you want to take a look, and it's just so crazy, just because, I feel like that's instinct in us. As us humans, we evolved because man found fire. Man learned to hunt, and then. We just kept reaching for the stars, and I feel like that's engraved in us. We have to we're people that keep moving forward. We're gonna keep moving forward, and I feel like you're someone that just embodies that whole message. And even in this whole ape documentary, it's just so interesting because they'll mate with all these different wives and have all these kids. So he has his own clan, but I'm not sure if you know this, but if someone challenges that ape and they fight, the loser gets nothing and walks away, and then the winner takes his own clan. So they say survival of the fittest. And so is that something that instilled over in Jochum Strength too, survival of the fittest, or is it just more of I'm not sure, your guys' own approach?
Yeah, I think you talk about looking at the ape approach. I just finished the book Exuberant Animal, and it's talking about how basically we evolved through play. And that's something that we miss a lot too. Is we miss the? It's almost a little bit different than the competition and it's more how can you play and approach it in a playful manner and start to enjoy the movement and enjoy the approach again, rather than kind of lose the love for a lot of it, which happens a lot with a lot of these athletes. And I don't think it's necessarily the competition, because I treat competition as play. You have two athletes compete with each other. They love that. They love the competition. It's the fact that they never have any control over that competition. They never have any control over their approach. And
so are you guys more of it's you versus you kind of approach then? Is that how you look at it almost? It's not that other person lined up against you. It's like you versus you.
Yeah, in a sense, and I would say we're almost like you still want to win. Like it's not like you don't want to win, but the way you win is by bettering yourself. Like you can't win by focusing on your opponent. You can't win by like, oh, he did that this time. Like you win by, all right, I made that mistake. All right, he beat me that way. Let's talk about that. Why did that happen? All right, I'm running at this speed. I need to run at that speed. What happened? All right, my strength levels are this. He is tossing me. Why is that happening? And that's where knowing you and competing against you allows you to utilize your strengths and cover up your weaknesses. Rather than, again, in the physical world, you have this short, twitchy athlete that's really good at changing direction, and he's trying to win a fight. He's trying to win this game by being like playing it like an offensive lineman because he sees that's what all these big, strong guys do. It's like, that's not your skill set. Like, juke somebody out and getting them to understand that mentally, like what their skill set is and what their body is, and then tripling and doubling down on that. And now they start to come into their own. They start to understand, all right, I have this, that athlete doesn't have that. He has that, I don't have that. How can I cover that up? How can we work on a little bit of that weakness, but still double down on our strength? And that's how you become the best athlete that you can, is utilizing your strengths and covering up your weaknesses.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So are you in like the film rooms with the guys and like just watching that with them and like creating their own like little workouts to help them like be like great at their own position?
So we'll watch movement. We record almost every session that we have, and we'll talk about, we'll rewatch the thing, like, why did they get beat? That is the number one thing I want to approach. Why did they get beat? What is the issue? For some, it's not understanding where they're supposed to go. So we'll break it down, and this might be a little technical in the sports performance world here, but you'll have an athlete that can win every single time in a 2v2 situation. He's faster than the other opponent. He is quicker than the other opponent. He has all the movement options, and he wins every single time. You put that same athlete in a 1v1 situation, and now he's losing. And you're like, well, what is happening there? And some coach will look at that and be like, well, he needs to get stronger, faster. And it was like, wait a minute. He's winning in the 2v2 situations. He's winning in these other situations. If I have him sprints, like he's winning, he's the fastest we have. He doesn't need to get faster. He needs to understand mentally the pressure of the 1v1 situation when there's not a partner to look at, when it's not a team. Now it's just him. And that's where we're like, that's how we expose that weakness. And then we have other athletes that come in that they aren't fast enough. You watch, like they'll lose into 1v1s, they'll lose into 2v2s. You start to see like some of the change of direction stuff they're really, really good at. They can keep up with everybody. And now we go to our linear sprints and they just can't keep up. And you're like, oh, all right, that's that athlete's weakness. We explain to that, we break that down. And again, you can do this in a million ways. Maybe it's strength. Like athlete is fast as everybody, strong as anybody. And then when it comes, or agility is change of direction is as good as everybody. And then it comes to physical contact in that sport and he's getting tossed and broken. He loses his shape. All right, now we need to adjust the shape, the strength aspect side of it.
Well, no, that's super interesting. Like, I like how you're just like fully just breaking it all down, like saying like just like how like a coach's like perspective of it would just be hit the weight room, but like for you, it's just like, all right, let's break it down here. Like, what do we have? Like, what am I working with? And how can we get to that end goal, like to where you want to accomplish? So I'm assuming a lot of guys like seek you out now because I see you work out with not even just like St. Thomas guys, but St. Olaf, Hamlin, and like even some Augsburg players. So like, are guys just like coming to you and like giving you film and just like asking you to like watch their stuff and see what you see?
Yeah, and then a lot of it comes down to our evaluations too. Like, I like watching film on the athlete and understanding, but sometimes the film can be deceiving too, because a lot of times they'll show you their highlights. It's like, I don't care about your highlights. Like, all right, that tells me what you're good at. They'll never show you anything they're bad at most of the time. But I get an athlete for an eval, and this is again like some coaches will eval strength or they'll eval speed, and they don't understand. They'll never eval a competition. They'll never eval a 1v1. They'll never eval open space, and that's where you really start to see, all right, in this eval, I can bring an athlete in. And within a day, I understand why he isn't reaching his potential. I understand what his weak point is. I can just watch and see. I'm like, all right, mentally he doesn't get it. Tactically, he doesn't understand where he's supposed to be. All right, this athlete has never wrestled anybody before. He's raised in a suburban kind of life of like he's only played football his entire life, so he's never had that wrestling background. All right, let's expose him to a little bit more grappling. All right, this athlete's a farm boy. just naturally like has a huge movement base. All right, now let's like make it a little bit more specific. Let's kind of dive it in. And that's just breaking down and understanding where that athlete comes from, actually watching him move, not looking for what you want to see, but actually watching that athlete move, and then understanding why he's losing. Why are you losing? Why are you not making the jump that you want to make?
That's so interesting. I'm ready to get out of my seat and just like go like train with you right now and just go play some football, man. It's just, so when you bring up grappling, that interests me so much. Like, have you like entered into like jiu-jitsu or like even just like wrestling after like college right now? Have you like tried like doing those other movement like type like martial arts?
So I come from a huge wrestling like high school. So I wrestled up until 8th grade and then did it for a couple of years and then wrestled again senior year. But wrestling was the main sport at our high school. And understanding, and that was one of the biggest thing is like, again, I was the strongest, I think there's one guy that was stronger than me at our high school. Second strongest guy at our high school. I'd go into this wrestling mat and I would wrestle. I think he was 180 pounds and I was 230 pounds. He was a state champion, 180 pounder, and we'd wrestle. And if I was able to grab on and no movement was in place, like I was fine. But if he created space and set me up, like he could get me on the ground like nothing. I was like, what the hell just happened? I didn't even feel it. Like I was just on the ground. And that's where I really started to click, like it's technique. It's understanding brace versus flow. It's understanding how that person's body moves. It's being comfortable enough in space. There's a lot of athletes that they're not comfortable in space. Wide receivers, they don't like blocking because they don't understand space and the physical contact. So you know how you do that? You don't tell them to block harder. You put them up next to somebody, make them grapple and wrestle. And then they're like, all right, this isn't so bad. I understand. I'm feeling his flow. That level of strength and that level of understanding of what your body can do is so much different than what we traditionally call strength, what we traditionally call like that barbell squat where the dude squat 500 pounds. He can squat as much as he wants. If he doesn't understand how to use it with his body, he doesn't understand how to torque from his feet into the hips, into the upper body, into his hands, like it does him no good.
No, yeah. Have you had like a moment like to where like you were amazed like what your body could do? Because like obviously like, you've done the dunking, you've done like I think now like what is that like just even the flip? I was looking at your Instagram the other day, but like has there been like a goal like you accomplished and you're like, wow, I had no idea my body could do this?
Everything I'm doing right now.
Really? Okay, sweet.
Everything I'm doing right now, 3 years ago, I would not have been able to, not even close, at all. Like my spine was so molded together, my body was so molded together. I had so few movement options, and it was just stuck as a human in movement that everything that I do right now makes my old self look like an idiot.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I mean, like I said before, I see you run on the field. Like, so are you just like engaging like with the guys? Like so you're on like the sidelines and like, are you just like immediately like, do you see like just like movements and like just everything that's happening in the game and just be like, oh, I can like translate that to like a training session? Do you like watch the games and like kind of like visualize like the whole movement aspect from it?
Yeah. Watching everything, being awake. It goes back to being awake, looking at everything. One of the quotes I love is like, you can read a book and like, there's two ways to read a book. You can read a book and think you're smarter than the author and take nothing from it, or you can read a book and even if you disagree with everything, you can read it in a sense of like, I'm going to grab something from it. It goes back to like, somebody can read War and Peace and get nothing out of it, and somebody can read the back of a cereal box and like have the answer to cancer, you know? Like, it's just being open to the resources, learning from everything, watching everything. Watching a game, yeah. Watching practice, yes. Watching any other movement, yes. Watching kids play on the playground, yes. Watching my dogs play. There's something like, I was watching these ducks walk out of park, and I was like, holy shit, like that's a cool movement, how they're moving their hips and their spines and everything together. Like how fluid they are. Watching everything and being awake to it is like one of the biggest keys, and that's what most people don't do. They live in their weight room. They live in the kingdom that they built for themselves, and they never leave, because if they leave, they're not the king anymore. Most strength coaches, if they leave the weight room and they have no understanding of anything else, and now they're not the king anymore. But if they stay in that weight room, they stay in that castle, they're king of the castle, and they can pump their ego up as much as possible. My entire goal is to shit on my ego. My entire goal is to destroy everything that I'm the king of and go do something that the front handspring. I ate shit on that for 6 months straight. I looked like such an idiot doing it for 6 months straight. Then there's a 13-year-old at my house right now that did it like it was nothing. And I was like, all right. And I just asked for how to do it. I learned from a 13-year-old. Like I'm 24-year-old sports performance specialist that learned how to do a skill from a 13-year-old. Like that's how you have to approach this field. And I think how you have to approach pretty much life.
Well, your mindset is so like unique, man, like I said. And so like you said, you're not trying to be different from the competition. You're just being you. Like, so when did you kind of like enter like this aspect and mindset to like the whole like manifestation and like the spiritual walks and like the whole movement? Like, was it something you read into a book and you're like, this is something that intrigued me, or was it just something that like that just clicked one day and you're just like, I love it?
It was more the senior year. Had everything that I had dreamed of for 4 years. All-American, successful on the football team, lineman of the year, girlfriend, job in line, couple job offers if I didn't want the job in line. Track season was come up where I was just coming off being the conference champ. Every single thing that you could possibly want. And I hated life. I was unhappy. I was like, this is the moment I had been waiting for 4 years. And I'd reached it, and I was like, what? Like, this sucks ass. Like, everybody told me this was my moment. Everybody told me this is exactly what I wanted, and I am miserable. Like, this is, and that's where I was like, I need to take a different look at life. I need to take a different approach to life. And that's where the light bulb turned on of approaching life in a different way, approaching my understanding of things in a different way, and then reaching and diving into resources that can lead me into that way, diving into resources and people that have already done it, people that have already spiritually happy and successful and have done the things that I want to do, and then actually listening to them rather than pumping up my own ego and making myself feel like I'm the king of the castle because I'm doing the things that I want to do. That is like, man, that's not what it's about.
Was that how the podcast started for you then too? Was it just like talking to like just like different people and like learning from those resources then too?
100%. That was the podcast to a T. I'm like, how can I find the best way of talking to everybody that I want to talk to for free? Like I've had podcast, and don't tell these podcast guests, I guess. But, had podcast guests on that like they offer consulting. Like it's like $1,000 to talk to them for an hour. If you
wow.
And I'll message them and I'll be like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to come on the podcast. And I can talk to them for an hour. Like that's exactly like people talking about like what's your goal with the podcast. It's like to talk to cool people that I want to talk to learn all of the answers that I want to learn. And now I get to do it for free. And now I get to have content from it. And now I get to do all these things with it.
That's super awesome, man. You're just like hustling right there. I love that. So like you asked me before we started the show, you asked me what my goals were for the podcast. Like what are some of the goals you have for your guys' podcast right now?
So we just finished up season 2. Our goal, or season 1 was just like a total experiment, like figuring out how to buy a mic, figuring out how to set up a podcast. It was a shit show. Like, it was not good. It was all over the place.
People don't realize how hard it is, man. Hard. They really don't know.
And season 2, I was like, all right, now we understand all the baseline stuff. We have the foundation. Season 2, we set a goal of having 52 guests, an episode a week, 200 listeners per podcast, just like all these goals that we had. And we crushed them all. Like we didn't even expect to do it, and we just crushed it. And now, so we just finished up season 2 last week. Our 52th guest, 52th? I don't think that's a word. 52nd guest.
Nice. There you go.
And it was super cool. Like learned so much. Totally changed my thought process on sports performance and health and fitness. And now we're doing the month of January off. And season 3, our goal is to really take it to the more community, more. So we had we thought that we had a ton of amazing content. Now we need to find a way to get that amazing content more engaged with the community, have them understand it more, maybe be a little bit more personable, clean up a couple things, work on the sound. So that's kind of our, season 3 is trying to make it a little bit more crisp, make it a little bit more community based, and really, again, elevate the level.
Well, yeah, and another thing that's impressive to me too is like we said before, like your marketing is pretty like amazing. Like you guys are just like killing it right now. So like Jochum Strength is not only just like a fitness business, but you're also a podcast business. Like even the shirt you're repping right now is your clothing brand right now. So like, how are these goals been set? Like are you? What's next for like just the brand itself? Like, are you still gonna like keep chasing the podcast world, or do you want to like keep chasing something different to add to the brand?
Man, I have, first of all, marketing wise, I got to thank my marketing team. That's a big goal of 2021 is to continue to build teams and build systems. So at the end of 2020, hired on 2 interns. We have Dawson and Lauren helping with the marketing team. And it's been amazing being able to work with that and work in now more of a managerial role. We have Marcus, who runs the podcast with us. We have Sean, who does a lot of our website stuff. And now how can we systemize stuff? How can we work on bigger picture stuff? How can we continue to market in a different way? How can we they have so many good ideas, and my brain is like, this is like what I'm really like what I have a skill set in is like ideas. If they're good ideas or bad ideas, that's irrelevant. It's just ideas. That's how my brain works. Like ding, 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 ding. And now trying them out, folding them into the best ways, getting that message out there. That's a big thing. I feel like we've had a really good message for a long time now.
What's your message?
Out there, better movement, building better movers, man. That's like our number one goal for Yoga Strength Insider. Build better movers, not stronger power lifters, not people that have bad backs, not like building better movers holistically. Like that is our message for our insider. Like, and getting all of these messages out there and building a system to do that. And that's kind of our goal for 2021.
That's inspiring, man. I'm so glad to hear that you guys are doing so well. And so another thing for me, though, too, when I started this podcast, I was a little bit hesitant. Like we said, like it's hard to take that leap of faith and like kind of like just say like, fuck it, like I'm going to go for this thing. And like you never really know like if people are going to listen. Like was that like a worry for you like when you first created the podcast? Like, like were you nervous about that, or was it just something like I love this and I'm just going to do it? I don't really care what people think. Like this is something I just love to do.
I think the only 2 skill sets I was really blessed with was the ability to have ideas and the ability to not care. And I don't know where that's not caring where that comes from, because that's the thing. Like, did you ever worry about the podcast? It's like, no. Like, I knew it was going to suck. Like, that's one of the things. Like, I know it's going to suck. Like, to start, I know everything that I'm going to do, and I think maybe that's where it came from. Is like understanding that everything that I do to start is going to suck. Like, I'm not naturally gifted enough to be amazing at it to start. So I'm just going to start doing it. It's going to suck to start. And we're going to get, like, I can't even go back and listen to season 1 podcast because of how bad the flow was, how bad, like, what we were trying to do was. And then season 2 that ended, I was like, holy crap, like, the growth blows my mind. And the growth happens because I did it. But that was like, I think I'm wired a little bit differently to understand that. Like, man, people hate on Tom Brady. Dude's won 6 Super Bowls.
He's the GOAT.
Like, they're going to hate, not me. Like, come on, like if they're hating on that man who has made it in every sense of the word, they're gonna hate on me. Like I don't care. Like I want to live my life. I want to do what I do. People that want to listen, people read that my message resonates with their soul. It's gonna help them. And people that it's not, like they're gonna hate on it anyways. They're gonna hate on it whether I do it or not. They're gonna hate on me whether or not. So why not do it and help people along the way?
That's awesome, man. And like that's another thing though too, like that's like one of the first things I heard. They're like, yeah, when you start this podcast, like kind of no expectations. And like, well, what do you mean? They're like, it's gonna suck at first, like just kind of be used to it. I'm like, oh, okay, like that's encouraging. Like just we'll keep going with it. So but no, yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's definitely like a whole nother like world almost. Like I feel like the power of conversation can help so many people. Like you can literally like be there for that person, like if they're having a rough night, and just to even like give them that like sense of like encouragement or inspiration to like not only just like keep going and like follow your dreams, but just to like take another step in like growth in their own life. Have you like noticed that as well?
Yeah, and I think like having my own ability to learn how to communicate and learn how to listen and learn how to develop questions that matter and combine all of those things into something that makes sense in somehow, some way, and then keep your personality and keep what your soul wants to say behind all of that and not selling out in a sense. Like that has been the number one thing that I've been trying to accomplish.
So you also said though too, so going into 2021, you had your goals for just like yourself and the brand what do you recommend for people, like, I guess advice though too, just because, like, when the new year comes, everyone's starting to go into the gym, they buy the new gym membership, and by February they exit out the door. Like, what advice do you give to those type of people that like are entering, just like wanting to get in the gym, and like every year in New Year's they say they're gonna do it, but then they end up fading away?
Tell 5 people. That's the number one thing that I do. Like, don't create a Finsta, like a fitness account. Don't create something else that you can hide from people. Sit there. If social media is a power for you, post it on your social media every single day. If social media isn't a big thing for you, tell 5 people that you'll talk to every single day. Here are my goals. This is what I'm going to do. As soon as I falter, like, call my ass out, and surround yourself with people that are going to call you out. Your mind is weak. Like, to start, your mind is weak. You have an ape brain that is like, comfort is what it wants. It wants endless calories because that means survival in the moment. It wants to sleep because that means survival in the moment. It does not want to move because you're not being chased by a tiger. Like, that is what you're wired to do. And if you sit there and you try to fight that, 90% of people, it's going to break. You know what you're really, really amazing at is listening to the people that care about you. You tell them, like, you're motivated in the moment, and it's what you actually physically want to do. That's another thing. Like, you're not doing it because you want to look good on Instagram. You're not doing it because somebody else told you to do it. You're doing it because you want to do it. Tell the ones you care about, put it out there, manifest it, and then do it. And as soon as you start to slip, have somebody that is there to call you out. Oh, that's how you do it. And as soon as you don't have a system set up that way, it's much easier to slip back in. When I see people, like, they start to create a brand, or they start to do a fitness account, or they're trying to do like a business, and they create a separate Instagram account for it, I know right away it's going to fail. I know instantly it's going to fail because they're creating that separate account so they don't get judged on their own account. Like, that's why they're doing it. And I understand why they want to do that. But if that's how you feel about it, you don't have good enough belief in your system. You don't have good enough belief in that. And now, like, you don't want to be called out. You don't want to be judged for it. And so the first thing that hits you, the first bad thing that happens, you're going to fail. And that's what's going to happen. So do it on your own account. Call yourself out. Do that. Like, put it out there.
No, yeah, and just I love how you brought up discomfort, because discomfort is our friends. Like, I feel like as like human beings, like, we seek the comfort, but like the growth is when the discomfort happens, and like we're pushing ourselves outside our own bubble to like keep going. Like, no matter what it is, like in life, like if you want to be great at like speaking, or like in the gym, create that body, or just in general in life, like discomfort is our friend. Like, even for me, like, or even you, like if you worked out when you felt like great, like how many times do you feel great to like get up and like during the weeks, like just to get up and go to the gym?
And I don't think going to the gym is a good thing for me because I enjoy it. I do enjoy it.
No,
so
yeah.
That's where it's like,
or even just like movement, or yeah.
Exactly, and that's where it's like doing something, because for many people, this is something that the biggest thing in my coaching career that I had to shift is I enjoy movement. Yep. I enjoy lifting. Most people out there do not enjoy it. So like for me to be like, come on, dude, like I talk about the grind, I talk about this, like lifting isn't a grind for me. Like that's such a fake thing to talk about. Is like, it's not a grind for me. I enjoy it. And that's rewiring a way for me to enjoy it. Now, what's a grind for me is reading exercise, like studies, doing something like that in a different sense for other people that wouldn't be the grind. So reshifting that into the mindset of, one, start to wire your brain into a way that you do enjoy it. That's something that you have to continue to do. But then two, I think like not looking at me and being like, well, he's grinding. That because that's what something like I told people all the time I was doing. I wasn't grinding. It was such a weak way to talk about that in my own sense. I wasn't grinding. I enjoyed it. What would be grinding for me is doing something that I disliked, that as much as you disliked working out.
No, yeah, and that's where I meant to go with that. Just because, like, you know, we bring up discomfort, and that's like I said, like that's when the growth happens. And I feel like for me, like if you want to do something you love, you have to be consistent with it, and just like you have to get over those bad days. Because like for me, at least in my experience, is like 6 times out of 7 in the week, like I could easily just wake up and be like, I don't want to really do it, you know, but like consistently and just like keep going with it and to like achieve those goals. Because like, you know, if you are setting goals for yourself, it's not going to be easy. And like, it's so easy just to curl up in bed and be like, oh, you know, I'm not going to let the world hurt me or let their viewpoint of me dictate like my point of view. You know, it's just getting up, doing the work, and then accomplish what you want to accomplish. Whether that's, like you said, doing something you love. I think that's the most important thing about it coming into 2021.
Well, and that's where you talk about consistency. That's where our whole company mantra comes from, of keep chopping wood. Like the consistent process of every single day when you go to bed, ask yourself, did you swing the axe today? Like, did you swing? Did you take one chop of that axe off the tree? Like one swing. Did you do that? If you did, you can go to bed and be great. If you didn't, like, why? Why didn't you do it? And that's where every single day, like, you want to see an insane change in your life. You want to see an insane change in your fitness level. You want to see an insane change in your business. Swing that axe every single day for 4 years.
No, yeah.
It's not taking 100 swings one day and taking the rest of the week off. It's every single day, swing once. And once you start swinging once, you're like, ooh, kind of like that. I'm going to swing again. All right, let's do it again. And that's where the continual process will come from, and the continual growth, rather than the up and down wave of staying the same, but you feel the acceleration, deceleration, you're just kind of staying the same.
No, exactly. And I feel like just being consistent, and no matter what you do, you will see the growth eventually. You just have to stay with it. And I think like so many people like want to make excuses for themselves, like now just and be like, oh, I don't have this because of these events, or or they see someone else successful and they just like think, a little timid for them. Like I'm sure like when people see you in the gym, you see this, big guy. Like I hate bringing up the gym because like obviously you're a big movement guy, but I mean just seeing you like at UST walking around, I feel like for some people that can be like timid for them, and like not even just like to throw you under the bus, but just to like in reality, I feel like some people like have other people's like thoughts and like emotions of them dictate their own like point of view.
100%. Like eliminate one, your perception of me, your perception of somebody else is a reflection of you. Like it's not them. It's you have no idea what they actually, it's just all your perception of reality. Their perception of you is their perception in the moment. One of the coolest things that I heard is like somebody likes or dislikes you is based off their emotions within the 10 minutes of meeting you. That person is having a shitty day and they don't feel good and everything bad is happening in their day. That person could, for the rest of their life, dislike you because they met you in that moment. That was their perception of you in the moment. Are you really going to let that dictate how you feel about yourself? That person dislikes you? Like, you don't, that's like what people just need to continue to understand. Like, you don't control anybody else's emotions. You're not responsible for anybody else's emotions. Any emotion that comes onto you is your own fault. That's your understanding of that moment. That person's not being mean to you. That person's not being like, it's your understanding of the moment, your perception of reality. And once you understand that, and awareness is really good book to help you like kind of take a step in that direction to understand that, you can start to shift it. You can start to, oh, I'm feeling that. Why? Why am I feeling that? Why does that person give me that feeling? And it's not to allow that person to bully you. It's to understand you control the situation. You control the movement. You control your emotions. You control your mind if you understand it in that way.
Do you use, so I like how you use the word like movement, just like to understand other people's movements. Is that something you like correlate to like your everyday life? Like, I guess like not even just like watching their behaviors and like just physically, but just even emotionally. Is that how like you just like kind of like carry on with your day and like apply movement to just like your everyday routine and just like seeing the world at a different aspect than everyone else?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to go back to it, but it's really just like opening your eyes up, like understanding that emotion, understanding what is actually happening, understanding your perception of reality. And again, we're going to tie this all the way back to before, like you have to understand yourself. You have to allow yourself to go down into that zero. You have to allow yourself to go down into that completely empty state of mind to be able to do that. Because if you're always at that 7, I tell people this all the time, if you're always at that 7, the first thing that pops up, you're not going to have any leeway to like take a breath, pause, tell yourself you're here, and respond accordingly. It's going to be all 8-brain emotion. Like, and that's what a lot of people's life, somebody stops their car in front of you, spike, you're angry. Somebody texts you something, spike, you're angry. Your boss tells you to do something, spike, you're angry, depressed, you have something. It's because we're always buzzing. We want to buzz, we want to grind, we want to do these things. Take a deep breath. Tell yourself you're here. go into the zero. This is something I do a lot, is like every time I grab a door handle and I enter into a room, I breathe, I literally tell myself into my brain, I'm awake, shake the door, walk into a room. You're there. One thing with athletes that we do a lot of the times, before we work out, we just have them stand, we take their shoes off, we have them squeeze the ground with their toes, shut their eyes, squeeze the ground with their toes. We say, I'm awake. You're there. You're in that moment. What are your intentions? You're here. You've got to be here. As woo-woo as that sounds, like most people are not here. They're thinking of the future. They're thinking of the past. They're thinking about what just happened. They're thinking about what's about to happen. They're not here. And then that allow that 8 brain to be in the moment, and that 8 brain will zigzag you up and down, will destroy your life, and will not take you anywhere that you want to go.
Well, that's super interesting too, just because like you say, like you kind of like open your eyes and like kind of like go to that zero, and someone you look up to is that Ito Portoro. Am I saying his name wrong? I probably am. But anyways,
I think it's Ito Portoro. I'm not
Portoro.
sure.
I'm probably messing it up. But he's kind of like the Bruce.
I think I'm also messing it up though.
Yeah, I probably am though too. So, but he's kind of like the Bruce Lee. I feel like, because I've done a lot of research on him too as well, and he's kind of like a big believer in like Zen. Like you're not up here, but you're not down here, but you're just like you're just there with the center of the universe. Is that something like, have you like looked into Zen by any chance or no?
Well, it's also very much like the stoic mindset. Like whatever you want to label it, it's paying attention. Whatever you want to label it, it's understanding. Whatever you want to label it, it's not getting too high and not getting too low. Because that's another thing, like people talk about like, oh, like I'm awake, I'm paying attention, I don't care what that person thinks. But then another person will tell them they're great, another person will compliment them and tell them how great they are, and they get super high and happy and they love it. Like that's also part of paying attention. Like now you're letting that person control your mind in a good way. You're letting that person get you high, but that's still, if they're allowed to get you high and you're taking that high, you're taking that dopamine dose, that means somebody else can get you low. So until you're able to get to a point where that person tells you you're really good and compliments you 100 times and it doesn't get you too high, until you get to that point, like you're not actually in the moment. You're not actually there. You're still riding off other people's thoughts and you're riding off other people's emotions. It's the balance of everything. In the moment, you're awake, you're there, your mind is clear, your thoughts are your own thoughts, you're paying attention to everything.
Dude, I would be completely honest with you. Before this episode, like a big dream of mine is to like be a motivational speaker. I feel like you can like do this already. Like you're like an Eric Thomas of like just going into like a football locker room, just giving the boys a big pep talk. I'm already feeling inspired. Is that something that like you would consider with the brand maybe? Like do you ever like go in the locker room and like pump up the boys maybe?
I don't think in the football sense doing it. I think there's a purpose.
Like a life aspect, not even just football, but not even sports, but just as life, you know? Like, I feel like you're just like a person that just, you enjoy life. Like we talked about before, you just like, I can just tell you're a guy that just loves life like a kid. You know, this is just something you're just like, you just love living.
And that's kind of my goal with the business in a sense, is to show people that it's possible. You know, like that's how I want to inspire people. Show them it's possible, man. Like that's all people usually need, is like, that guy can do it. Like I want every single person to look by the time we're done, like that idiot can do it, I can do it. Like that's exactly how I want it. That like NAF can do it, I can do it. That's exactly how I want them to look at that. Because that all people just need a spark. Like that's usually what they need. When we feel emotional, when we feel things in our life, it's acceleration or deceleration. We usually don't feel when we're at the same. So if we can just accelerate just a little bit, somebody gets that dopamine hit and it's like, all right, he can do it, I can do it, let's do it. And we got a podcast rolling. All right, let's do it now. We got a business rolling. That is kind of my goal with all of this, is if that idiot, if that ape can do it, if that meathead can do it, you can do it. I promise you can do it. I promise you have more resources. I promise you have more brain capacity. I promise you can do it.
And I think that's so true. I think that we are all like creators of like our own universe though too. And just like kind of like going back to just like, you know, like we talked about like you creating the podcast, and like you said you never really cared about like what people ever really thought of you. And just like kind of like going back to that, like what made you just like jump? Like just kind of like that, just like just hit that jump button to where, you know, like you're not only just, I really don't really see you as like, you know, like as a fitness guy, but I also see you just as a person that just like, I could see as like a life coach almost. I'm not sure if that's like the right term or like phrase you want to use, but just someone that's just, just you can just like give people inspiration, like a kind of like a Tony Robbins feel to it almost. Is that like something I'm off about or no?
I'm not sure it's something that I think the people that, again, I think that goes into a sense of like trying to be something. I'm not trying to be anything but me, like I'm not trying to
I love
speak
that.
anything but what my soul wants to say. I think, and I'm gonna probably go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but the other day, like I was looking at YouTube, and I got into a rabbit hole, but I was on Linkin Park's YouTube, and they have like 4 or 5 songs with 1 billion views, with a B, billion. Linkin Park is like this alternative rock like genre of music that it's not like rap or hip hop where you would expect millions of people. It's like not cool to listen to them. They have billions of views. B. Like most music videos like barely get a million, Like, and you're looking at this and it's like, why? What is resonating with people there? What is happening? And it's because they're like what Chester was so good at was taking the soul that was within him, putting it into his art, putting it into what he is. He wasn't trying to be a rock star. He was trying, what allowed him to express his soul? What allowed him to express his demons? What allowed him to do that? He put that out there and everybody can see it. When you listen to his music, you can feel it. You understand what he is saying. You understand who he is. You've never met him before in his life. I've never seen him before in his life, and I can see his soul. That is what you have to do. That is how you do that. Whatever your art piece is, whatever your art is, and that's what I tell a lot of people, is like, whatever you're doing, you have to understand it as your art piece. I'm a terrible artist. I cannot draw or paint or do anything. My art is in my writing. My art is in my coaching. That is how I get my soul out there, and that is how you have to approach it. You don't approach it in a way of, I'm gonna force myself into that. My parents told me it's how can I get my soul and what my soul wants to say out there, because it's not my message. My ideas are not my ideas in a sense. Like they come from somewhere. It's my responsibility to give them to the world. Like I have something in me that pops those ideas up. Somebody gave that to me. Now it's my job to give that to the world in a sense that it makes sense.
That is so powerful. And so I guess another thing I have to like just ask you about that. So what you're doing right now, is that like your art right now? Just like helping you like control those demons. Like I feel like all of us have like those demons inside of us. Like so what you're doing right now clearly is something you love to do. This is what like is driving you every day to like help control like that inner like demon inside you.
I think right now the biggest thing that allows me to show the world my art, to show the world my soul, is my writing. I think that's the number one thing that I want to continue to progress.
What's your writing
Been writing
about?
for just Fly. A lot of right now sports performance and trying to tie it into a way of making sense to the world. So it's not just X's and O's. It's not just sets and reps. It's mentality. It's spirits. It's zombie apocalypse. It's breaking out and just making sure I'm writing consistently, making sure I'm getting my thoughts out there. And that's where like, it's like, this is how I work with my writing process. It's like Instagram. I write these short little clips, these short little ideas that pop up. And then I do like 10 of those, and then everything for some reason clicks in my head, and I'm able to dive into a bigger article from that. And that's just, I think a part of that is just getting that message out there. But write is kind of what I want to do in 2021. It's what really allows me to paint what I want to paint.
That's really awesome, man. So with the zombie apocalypse, so what's that all about? Like I know you brought that up a little bit earlier. Is that just something like you believe that's gonna happen, like kind of like a World War Z kind of feel? Like have you ever seen that movie with like Brad Pitt and like the zombies like kind of like take over the world and we have to like find the vaccine to like cure all of us?
Yeah, so the zombie apocalypse, a little bit more, less, I have watched that movie, less of the sci-fi realm and more of the waking people up and like having zombies for athletes. Having,
Oh,
this is
okay,
what I
nice.
call it, this is a zombie. I'm on my phone, I'm looking down on my phone, I'm walking forward, and I'm not in the moment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. Oh, perfect. And like, what are you talking about in there? And like in all your writings, like you had mentality, zombie, and then I forgot the other one. What was the other one?
Well, Writing about everything, man. Just
Okay.
like spirit, soul, like talking about things that people usually don't talk about because it's not cool to talk about. Talking about things that in the sports performance world will get you shunned by most people because you can't measure it. We talk about sets and reps. We talk about certain exercises all the time, and we never talk about the mindset that goes into it. We never talk about what the athlete's feeling because, like, the big macho strength coach shouldn't talk about those things. That's not what you want to talk. It's like, that's bullshit. Like, actually play the sport, actually understand what's happening, and you'll look at that and be like, it's way more about the mindset and the spiritual approach to it than it is your sets and reps. I will never create a better athlete by adding bands, and this is like a big strength conditioning argument. Like, should we power clean or should we jump? Should we add bands to our squat or should we not? None of that fucking matters if your athlete is emotionally not there. None of that matters if they're not bought in. None of that matters if their soul isn't in what you're doing. So why are we talking about it? Like, why is that our main talking point? It doesn't matter. Like, let's talk about the things that matter with our athletes as humans, as performers.
And I think that's something that is missing because, like, even just like in college, like, we don't really have an outlet to like go with for our mental health. Like, you know, we don't really have that like department or like even like alley just to like even like talk about that and relate to with just everyone like around us, like even just like with athletes or students, like we all face those different things every day, and like to create that outlet for these guys and like to talk about that is truly inspiring.
Yeah, and that's again just something that I felt growing up as an athlete too, and it's something that I want to give my athletes a resource to be able to get out there.
Is that something you guys also like talk about like within your training though too? Is do you have sit downs with them and like have like almost heart to heart, or is that just something like if they reach out they just reach out to me?
I mean, that's less like forced. Again,
Mm-hmm.
I hate to bring that back, but it's not like, hey, we're going to talk about this today. It's like I build relationships with every one of my athletes, and when I feel like something wrong, I feel like something's off, there's something popping up. When we're meditating, it's like we all meditate at the end of our sessions, and somebody can't sit still. If we do like a long isometric hold, this is another one. Like, we do a long isometric hold. This athlete has a usual high pain tolerance and can hold the isometric hold for a long time, and they're quitting right away and they're breaking right away. They're getting mentally frustrated right away. Why? Like, why is that happening? Is that because they're physically not there? Is it because they're mentally not there? And you'll ask them, and it's because they failed a test that morning. It's because their girlfriend broke up with them. They're in a fight, like that type of thing. It's not because they're not physically ready. And once you start to understand that, you can build a conversation out of that. You can build a program and culture that is able to talk about those things.
I think that's so awesome though too that you're giving these athletes and even young men like that out, like just even that like you said, open their eyes up to like the world around them and just like seeing things from a different lens that I personally, like even before this, I wasn't even seeing, and I'm learning so much just from even talking to you right now.
Yeah, and again, like, it just came back to when I was an athlete. It's what I felt I really wish we had, and we didn't. And now my job, I feel like, is to give those options to the athletes.
That's amazing, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. And this episode has been truly inspiring for me, man. I've learned so much just even from talking to you right now, even meeting you right now because we didn't know each other before this. And I hope the friendship stays with each other. But thank you so much.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me on. Keep chopping wood.
Hey, chopping the wood, my man. Do you want to plug your podcast and your business and all that?
Sure. I mean, we're just Austin Jochum on Instagram.
Look him up.
And we have the Jochum Strength Insider on Instagram too. But I mean, it'll take you everywhere.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate that. I'm not even sure how long this was.
Fun.
But yeah, it was a good talk, man. I appreciate it. Dude,
it was a good quality conversation.
No, heck yeah. And I just like your whole mindset and just like everything about you, man. I love it. Like seriously, I feel like this is a great episode and people are gonna get a lot from it.
Yeah, when I know you said you pre-recorded a bunch. When do you plan on dropping this?
Either next week is kind of like the goal is when we're gonna start dropping them. So I feel like for yours will probably be like the end of January.
End of January.
Yeah, and I'll let you.
Just let me know whatever.
Yep, and I'll let you know too. I'll send you like a text and yeah. So like for at least for mine, I can give you like a rundown. For you, like so I'm gonna drop it like there are recordings on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but then for YouTube is what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is just clips for just like right now, because I don't really know if like people like really watch like the whole long form on YouTube. So I'm just gonna be like dropping clips. So like I'll like rewatch this like a bunch of times, and then like I'll just like clip like topics and like I'll just do like stuff like that for them.
Well, dope. When that happens, I'll for sure steal one of those clips and then throw it on the gram.
For sure, man. For sure. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. You got any big plans for New Year's or no?
Not yet. Still kind of just chilling at home. Our gym opens up January 4th, so kind of just prepping for that and prepping for our January transformation contest. So we have on the 4th too. So just kind of tying up all those strings right now with business.
Oh, sweet, man. Perfect. Well, dude, you were staying up this whole time. I feel bad for you, but man, you held in there like a champ.
No, I feel good, man. When I start to sit, I feel cramped, and I'm a big pacer, so like I just got to move a little bit when I was standing. So I'm gonna have to do this. One of my Dr. Tommy John's the guy I had on my podcast. He's a super cool guy, but he always stands during his podcast. So
really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Sweet, man. That's super cool. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate it. I can text you, though, too, when I plan on launch and everything, and then, yeah, we'll just, like, collab on that. I can send you the film, too, like, email it to you so you can just, like, have it right to your phone, too. So
Dope. Well, that works, brother. Thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
Hey, you too, man. Have a good New Year's.